Hello and welcome to Dance of the Soul with me, Natasha Venter. I'm a psychic medium, a multi-lifetime intuitive, and I am one who really loves to support people. So on the Dance of the Soul, Regan Forston, and he's supposed to be here, but yet he's not here yet. And I know that he's got a lot of stuff going on in his life, just like I have, and we all do. So we're going to give grace where that needs to be done. So today, Regan Forston is a hypnotherapist with a clinical hypnotherapist with the Newton Institute. And we both are here to support you. So I'm expecting Regan anytime, but I wanted to start talking about our subject today because of the fact that we are all kind of trying to figure out our new truths, right? And as we're figuring out our new truths and figuring out our old belief systems and figuring out where we are, what we're doing, how can we do this better? Where can we do this better? What's going on with this? Where are we at with this, right? So going into this belief system that I wanted to, or we wanted to talk about is that, there's many of us that grew up in religions, right? And we grew up in these religions or in our ethnic belief system, right? Because of the fact that many of us, who have come into this world, right, that our belief system from where we came into, indigenous people, the East Indian culture, the Hindu, belief system, a lot of the dance of even coming from Catholic religion, Lutheran, Methodist, whatever it is. And I'm sorry I didn't name everything. I don't want to dishonor anybody. We don't want to dishonor anybody. And this show is about finding your own perspective because you have your truths. Ours is just to kind of awaken you to another understanding, maybe. And when we're in this dance of reality of who we are and what we're doing, that there is this knowing that comes forth. And we are here in this world right now, and I've known this intuitively for a couple of years now, that we're breaking apart our old belief systems. Kind of like you have to let go of that old phone that you love so dearly, right? Or you have to release that computer that you love so dearly. And how do you negotiate these things that are part of our lives by building into where we're at, right? So what I want you to do is if you can in this show here, look at how are you coming upon new knowings. And it might be out of the box, right? Because I know I was at a fair, not this weekend, but last weekend, I think it was. Boy, time's moving so fast. That it was about, I sat with people who are really struggling with what their family's belief systems are, and what their new generation is going to be, right? When you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, we still hold on to a lot of our beliefs from our parents. We carry a lot of belief systems from our religions. We carry a lot of belief systems from, like if you're, from the Asian culture, the East Indian and the Asian cultures. Those are very strict backgrounds of strong belief systems in the way the family should be, the way that you hold yourself, the hierarchy of family, the hierarchy of life, right? And when we're going through this scenario of who we are and what we are, that it can be very daunting to try to break free of a lot of our old belief systems. And I'm going to even mention the belief system that we have about ourselves, right? Because how many of us have a belief system about ourselves? made you think a little bit about that, right? So that belief system of who you are, where you're at, oh my gosh, it's amazing to negotiate this. Because how many of us have low self esteem about ourselves? How many of us get into this idea of, let's say if we were a certain way when we were younger, let's say if we got into an addictional problem, you know, that that addiction problem, I'm going to call it a problem because addictions are kind of they like to control us, so it becomes a problem, right? So when we have those addiction problems, that our soul wants us to do a little different, but our soul takes us, and that's why it's called the dance of the soul. Our show is here is because the dance of the soul is something that we have to negotiate those lessons and those experiences. So I'm going to offer to you, and I know Regan would offer you to this too, is that how can we negotiate these old belief systems of ourselves? In the scenario of, you know when we were in an addictional problem, we didn't always make the best choices, right? And so we made poor choices, those poor things, those sorry to say moments, right? That how do we negotiate being us? And when we do that, when we're in the moment of being ourselves, and we're not always being our better self, right? We're not always being the person who that we're making better choices, but we kind of keep ourselves back where we made those choices, and it's hard to shift from that old thought pattern of who we were, what we were doing, to bring it up into a newer pattern, right? Getting the bigger perspective. What was that back there to teach me for my today moments, right? So I want to offer to you that, and please, if you have something that you would like to make comments about, oh, and if you are on Twitter watching, please remember I do not get comments in my comments here. So if you can go to Natasha Venter AC YouTube, I would be grateful because I would love to hear. Regan loves to hear good comments about life. And, I'm surprised he's actually not here because he emailed me saying great conversation to have. So I was expecting to be here and but life is, like I said, happening. So I am so glad that you are here, though. But please let me know what you're thinking. What are some of the old beliefs that you're trying to update? What are some of the old knowings that you have that are something that you need to update? Because we all are in this dance of trying to figure, even me, even I am negotiating some of this because I know with my dyslexia that and I can, like I told was telling my husband last week, and he goes, why does it take you 6 hours to do something it takes somebody 1 hour to do? And oh, hi Regan. And so with that um you know with my old with my the way my brain works, sometimes I can read 12th grade level in the morning, 3 hours later third grade level, and then another 2 hours I'm at sixth grade level. So I have to work through those old belief systems of who I was as a kid when I was made fun of, right, and deemed bad, to moving forward. And so Regan, I'll let you in a second. So it's one of those moments that how do you negotiate these stories of who we are and that belief system of ourselves? So please, if you'd like to comment, be a part of this. And Regan's here finally.
I'm so sorry. I got I got sidetracked today. I was doing research on this. Well, there's a bit of research on this changing. How do we change our cemented in belief system, to allow something new to come in? And I got really involved in listening to something on Clubhouse about the UFO sighting in Las Vegas 4 days ago. And I
Mm-hmm.
had not heard about it, but I guess it's been all over the news and everything, where the police actually on their cams saw this uh, object, heading down to Earth. It could have been a huge meteor or something, but then some people reported an alien in their backyard. So
Yes.
whether that happened or not, I mean, at least they have there was something out of the ordinary that happened, but it got me really thinking about, how, we're talking about our spiritual consciousness, our religious beliefs and things, but it goes across the board in all the things we believe, like once we've kind of cemented in what we thought was real or we accepted was the truth, and something else comes along, it's just normal for the subconscious to fight that because it doesn't want to change what it already believes. So it's a long drawn out process sometimes,
It really is, and it takes us practice. I'm not going to call it, right or wrong or in or out, because it's a journey. People forget that our soul is on this journey, of moving forward, and we need to sometimes undig ourselves from those old belief patterns and to
Yeah.
move in. And like I was saying, that sometimes when we're in culture, the culture of beliefs, like I was doing a session with someone who, she's of East Indian, culture, and she's, that's where arranged marriages can be put,
Yeah.
and I didn't say those words when I was having a session with her, but, I knew that that's what was implied. And
Hmm.
so we didn't really go into the depths of it, but I really wanted her to know, she was wondering about her relationship with this person and how to negotiate it. And, does it really fit in her box? And it doesn't really fit in her box. But like I was saying, that sometimes we have to honor our parents, we have to honor our grandparents.
Yeah.
And I don't want to call it, baby it, oh yeah, I'm thinking about that, grandma. I want to honor you, but yet, but there is that fine line between, honoring what the family says, but, kind of almost waiting them out, because we can't always do it. And you could, and if you do it with kindness and, grace, and saying, hey, grandma, I understand this is old news. This is old belief for you. I honor you so deeply for this. Grandma, I'm not you. I'm not mom. I'm
Right.
not that. I am me, and I'm trying to figure it out. And they may go so blah, 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 because that's who they are. But at least, it's that practice to do different. And like I said, we can honor who we are, but yet, it's how do we figure out that new truth? And like I was saying, that on this show, that we're not here to tell you what to do. We're here to support you in another understanding so that you can find your own truth,
Yeah.
because
Maybe
it
to give
is
you
about walking forward.
some alternative ways of looking at situations, like on this, it was so interesting. They had several thousand people that were uh, on Clubhouse, talking about this. And I would say for the most part, it was so interesting. About, oh gosh, I would say 60, 70% of the people were all about, yeah, they believe that we can't be the only ones around. That other 30% though was they were actually, the energy that they had that they were answering with was way more, uh, like, these people are crazy. There's no such thing. I mean,
Very
it was
a lot of judgment, a lot
a
of
lot of
judgment.
judgment, a lot more judgment than the people that had an open mind, you know. Um, Now, both of us know, and just because of what we do, like I know in the Newton Institute protocol, where we have people go to the afterlife and back, a lot of them experience past lives as aliens,
Mhm.
as or even lives where they've had in other dimensions, or sometimes they're just balls of energy that are doing stuff, So for us, it's easy, but I had to go through a process of changing my belief system, um, slowly on. I mean, ever since I was young, I guess, see, I don't remember this, except I remember on maybe my 16th birthday, my dad bought me a book, and it was about the Blue Book Project, which was the government program for looking for UFOs that they had for a while. And my dad gave it to me, and I remember him giving it to me, and it was like I must have expressed an interest in that a lot because that's what he thought was a good gift for me. And I
Mhm.
remember when I got the book and I just started reading it immediately, and it was all about the close encounters of the first kind, the second kind, the third kind. So, something in me already believed that kind of, but just needed some proof for the mind because everybody else was making fun of people that believed in that kind of thing.
Exactly. Now, but I'm going to go back to that story that you're talking about, and I'm not going to call it an untruth story. I
Okay.
can see that that's a true story, but I want to bring in a perspective, because right now, We have a lot of things that are going on behind the scenes in humanity,
Yeah.
in humanness, i.e. government, i.e. world, i.e. this, i.e. that.
Hmm.
Distraction is the best thing to do when you want to have people not pay attention.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay? As a perspective,
Oh,
as a perception, I sometimes have to go neutral on a story to see if this is more of a distractional moment
right.
or believe what's being said, but pay attention to the other stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a dual thing. So I'm offering to people that when you have a story that comes up, i.e., our ex-president may be going to jail. What kind of distraction is happening so that we don't pay attention to some other stuff that is
Yeah.
coming up behind the scenes? And it's not a bad thing or a good thing. I'm just saying be aware of this.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
I
that's
I
happened
understand
before.
that the planet the starships and stuff are coming here. They are always been here. We just have the veil has been where they've hidden once they get in certain far.
Yeah.
Now they're not,
Yeah.
right? And so I saw some of the video on that, and I believe that that's true. I'm also, but when I looked at it, I went timing. That's the other word that came in was timing.
Yeah. Well, I think that's something we always should put in our discernment is just what you're saying, because, just because we have a belief thing, is to figure out, okay, who's, you
Isn't that funny that you were talking about something and we might get cut off here? So, um,
did you hear that ringing just now?
no, I did not.
Oh, my phone was ringing, and it's a repair person from Monterey, I think, that has to do with the washer there is stuck and won't drain. And I spent hours and hours trying to find someone to get out there because the person who's renting there is really upset, you know. So they can't do their clothes. So anyway, sorry, I was
No,
afraid
no, no,
when that
no.
rang.
But
I'm
I
like, yeah,
thought
you'll be
it
out
was
there.
kind of funny about how the universe sometimes steps in when we're talking about something, and we should not really talk about it as cleanly as we want to because
Yeah,
we're also on Facebook and YouTube, so we have to use discernment when we're talking about certain things. So
yeah.
I wanted to speak of this in kindness because
Well,
this is about the soul journey. And
and
go ahead.
yeah. Well, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead and finish.
No, 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 you're
You
good.
just
Good,
got me
good.
going here because I'm thinking, okay, because you and I specifically, one of the things that we try to help people do is to be willing to look at spirituality in a different light, more
Mhm.
than what they've uh, done too. But whether people watching want to start believing like we do, because in a sense, I think, to me, since I've been to the other side and back, um, that's made it more real to me that there is an afterlife, and that this is just we're just down here visiting, because I've actually visited there. So I used to use the analogy, like, somebody can tell you about this beautiful place on earth called Disneyland, which is the happiest place on earth, and you can hear about that all the time, and that, but there's something about, if you go there and you actually see that it exists, then it makes it one more step believable,
Mhm.
that way. And so of course, now the other side that's fighting to change that will tell me, oh, the devil has allowed you to see that because they're tricking you. Because now that they're tricking you, and you think there's an afterlife like that, which they're just mocking up for you to trap you or trick you somehow to take you off the other path. So, I mean, that's what some people come up with when they don't want to change their beliefs, is they find a reason, some reason. Well, for instance, like hypnosis, it's pretty much proven now. I mean, hypnosis is a real thing. It's a real phenomenon. It's a natural state. But some people still think that that's the work of the devil, or some
Mhm.
sort of demonic, demonic entities, things like that. But that's just because, they have to, or if people experience past lives, someone will say, oh, there's something in your brain that's making you see that. They have to come up with some alternative reason. Otherwise, their belief system can't stay in place. You know, if they even open up and go, well, maybe there's a possibility, but that's not what I was taught. That's not what I believe. But look at all this evidence now. Oh, so it's like that's a crack in the veneer, and then slowly people are able to change their belief systems. So
Yeah, it's a really interesting place, but that's what I want to offer to people is that when you are looking at oh man, this is making that I can't believe that this is something I want to think about. Oh my gosh, how am I supposed to think about that? This doesn't fit in my box. What am I supposed to do with this, right? But there is that part of it that it's not like you have to jump in with both feet. Do research,
right,
get different perspectives, get different knowings. For me, I have, and see where it sits in your body. There's many times where it's like somebody's talking to you and you're getting goosebumps all over, and it's like, and your body is reacting to this in a very magical way. And yet your brain is telling you, but your body is just going, hell yeah, this is right. You gotta listen to something about it. But I'm going to tell you that the brain takes a little while to negotiate it. And we gotta really work on how do we invite these new knowings, because sometimes when we just jump in with 2 feet, a lot of us just like, oh, I can't do it, and
yeah,
it stops, and then we get into these, I want to call them speed bumps of life, where things just get harder and harder and harder because we're in a contradiction with ourselves. But
yeah.
it is about practicing
Mhm.
to, it's just, even if you practice going into different churches and hearing different beliefs, and then you can go, yeah, nah, that doesn't fit. Oh, but wait a minute, that one kind of, maybe I'll put that in my back pocket and carry it around and think about it for a while, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, I remember way back when I was starting when I was changing from only believing in Catholicism, to changing, and then I had like a vision or an experience where a teacher told me to progress in bite sizes. You know,
Hmm.
because if you take too big a bite of this change of who you really are, and knowing all the spiritual stuff, that your physical body can't handle it. And you can end up in a nut house. Because that's like. People that used to say they heard voices and things. Sometimes they were hearing communications from the other side, and they would say someone, and then they lock them up for the rest of their life, put them on drugs in an insane asylum.
Hmm.
That's what used to happen. So I learned, you just have to be, once the veneer is cracked and there's something within you that goes, oh, I kind of got to go in that direction. I can't help myself. Just take it a little at a time. Read a few books, find a spiritual path or something that has more looking at things in a different direction or something.
Hmm.
That's why I think in college, that's where my beliefs started being cracked, is when I took an alternative uh, theology course, or what do they call it when you look at a lot of different teachings in college. They have anyway,
Alternative,
yeah.
yeah, I know some of the names of that, because
We're
I
just studying spirituality. And all of a sudden I'm in this class and they're talking about these people in India that believe that their relatives were in these cows running around. And I remember everybody in the class just laughing like that's totally ridiculous. And to me that sounded ridiculous, but there was still something in me that says something's there, though. Something's there, even though I don't believe this cow thing necessarily. But that was little by little. I was opening up and finding out more what it is. And now, I mean, with the Newton Institute, we just figure we've got, research 70,000 times. We've had people go to past lives, and 90% of the people that go into session experience a past life. So, what does that tell you? That's a repeatable experience that can be duplicated over and over and over again, which is what scientific people do. You know,
Mhm.
all these people for years, we've heard about out of body experiences and people doing astral travel and things like that. Well, now we just got in there, and there's 250 of us doing this research, and we don't have any doubts anymore. Most of us, even in the researchers now, have experienced past lives and things. There's even and then some people say, well, you do that in hypnosis. That's where someone's telling you what to think, or someone's planting the images in your mind. And then I say, okay, what about the book that was just published by the University of Virginia called Before? And these are about children that remember past lives, and they're not in hypnosis or anything. They're just little kids that are walking around talking about
Mhm.
their previous lives. And then they've been taking researchers that go to find out that those facts that the children said were actually true.
True.
Okay,
Mhm.
so that kind of shuts down that argument, but still.
Yeah, there's a and if okay, let's go back to the cow thing.
Yeah.
Even if you can believe that, that your family members are part of the cows. Well, I'm going to put this perspective in there. What happens if we are all souls of light? Four-legged, no-legged, two-legged, we're souls of light.
Mm-hmm.
We are all essences of each other because we're all soul light.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you say, is a cow a part of my family? Yes, because we're all soul families. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter if you're pink, white, purple, green. We're all soul families. And so when you're talking about essence, like my dog is an essence of us in this family,
Mm-hmm.
and, I can say that, yeah, she was a Fey family of mine long time ago, and yet now she's my husband's familiar, my husband's light. And so, but then that soul is a part of our soul family, right?
Yeah.
So with that it doesn't matter if that belief system is true or not. In a fashion, in a language, if you come to more of a neutral concept, break it down, light is light. We are light beings. A cow is a light being. So it is part of our family.
Yeah. I think in the research that we're doing, we're finding out that as soul, we exist as energy,
Mm-hmm.
and so that energy can embed itself in anything it wants to have
Mm-hmm.
experience, just like people. I think the general feeling with most religious people is that we have that energy in our body, that soul, and that when we pass away, it exits. Well, we're in a sense, as we look at ourselves, we think we're solid beings, but there's that belief that soul goes in and comes out in this physical thing. So why can't it go into a dog if it wants to have experience, or any type of other uh, thing that it wants to? Well, one of the case histories that I remember, I think I mentioned it last year on the show, but when this lady went to a past life, she was just loving it. When she was there, she's in a deep trance, but and I said, well, look down at your body and tell me what's covering your feet. She says, I don't have feet. I said, well, hold out your arms. And I don't have arms. And ended up, she was this energy, and she was in the this mist that was circling Earth. She was helping to dry the Earth out, or whatever, so life could be, exist on Earth. So from heaven, or the afterlife, her job at that time that she took was to come and help to get it prepared. So,
Mm-hmm.
but she said that feeling of just bliss, of just floating in this mist, without
Oh,
any,
cool.
it was just, and she said it was the most beautiful life. So we're learning so much now.
Exactly. Like I had a past life where I was an angel on a warfield.
Oh,
I
it's
was
right. You were
helping
helping people that passed on to pass over, weren't
passed
you?
on, or I was whispering in their ear who were wounded, come on, you can do it. You can do it. We can get you
Wow.
there. And I would be that energy that would come in and support them to get that push to move forward. Now, people can say, oh, how can you know that? I'm like going, and I could probably in a way research some of the names, but at the same time though, when I look at their outfits, I can't tell if they're German or if they were American,
Hmm.
or Russian. I mean, I would have to look at those uniforms of that time because it's like World War One or two, somewhere in there, or it's in that general
In that
area.
area.
That because I know it was American, I can feel the Americanness in it. So, it's like I could probably research some of the names and but it would take a lot of research, and I'm not into that right now.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. But anybody's watching, please make comments, because this is a kind of an interesting conversation we're having about, what can we do when we're wanting to start a new belief system, and how can we appease that old part of us? But it's not like a jumping over the river type of thing. You can update your older self.
Yeah.
It's just
And it's like
talking. It's just talking to yourself about, I wonder if this is true. Okay, I'll think about it. Right.
I think people should do an inventory because we have a stack of belief systems. You know, there's a belief system about how we should eat. There's this about what religion we should be, what political party we should be sometimes, um, a belief system maybe that one race is better than another for some reason, or,
Hmm.
a belief system about, well, did the Holocaust even happen? Did we actually land on the moon? Everybody is the Earth flat? I mean, there are still some people that will swear, even though there's all this evidence, they still believe the Earth is flat. They call them they have this organization, and some people they have all these arguments and everything why the Earth is flat and why science and everything is showing is not real. And oh my gosh, so um, I'm trying to think now, what belief system do I have now that I'm exposing what I believe, but it's because of what I've chosen to believe. That's not in the ultimate thing, not really the truth. But the thing is, we have to keep trying. We have to keep in a sense, poking holes in the hornet's nest, just to see what's in there, to let out what the real truth is.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and like I can witness something of yours. You came from a generation of a man was a certain type of man.
right. Yeah.
And how much
That's
does
right.
that still sit with you, being the male that you are today?
Yeah. I had to, when I went back in my 40s, 30 years ago, like I've mentioned on the show a few times, had to go through 3 years of anger management because I was programmed to believe that when men get angry, they just yell and shout and throw things. That's just what was in my, well, I'm mad. This is just what you do. It's acceptable, you know. And then, took my 11-year-old stepdaughter to, when I yelled and screamed one night, and I saw that for 3 days she was affected by that, and I couldn't believe it. I'm going, whoa, I did that. I thought I was just being what a guy does. So in that process, that with the anger management, we had to undo what society says men should be. Like we have
Mhm.
we have to feel less than a man if we can't fix every problem that someone brings to us. That we're um, have to we can't wear anything pink, because it degrades our masculinity, all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
And you just realize it's just stuff that was in someone else planted in my mind. I decided to accept it was true, and I had to undo all that. So it had to take the love of a daughter, to get me to be willing to look at that and go, wow, this isn't working. This isn't really true. And then I saw other men that, could cry. I saw other men that could be strong and cry at the same time. And I went, wow, this is another version of men here. And that 3 years of changing, oh my God, I'm so glad that I did that. It made me a whole new person, you know. So you can change, but it's like with me, just changing my behavior and how I acted when I had feelings of anger. It took me 3 years in a slow way to slowly reprogram myself and work on it to become a person that I wanted to be, rather than who I was before. So that's just one little example of how hard it is to change. But
Mhm. It really is, especially when we are in a mindset of our brain. Let's say it has a belief system that it has to review our life and say, you should have done this, you should have done that, you should have done this. Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? We have that old brain programming, right? Well, sometimes we have to tell the brain, would you freaking stop?
yeah,
Just stop. And then I do have to do this too sometimes when my brain it's on a roller coaster, on a treadmill, right? Then
Hmm.
it keeps coming around, and sometimes would you just stop? And so I have to read. I have to get up and go to the bath. I have to do something different to break the pattern of the treadmill, so that I don't keep believing that I shoulda, coulda, wouldas. I'm not
Yeah.
here to be a shoulda, coulda, woulda person. I'm doing the better I can at the moment.
You
And
know,
so I have to
yeah.
retrain my brain to say, no, I shouldn't have done something different. I did what I did. Here now, if I do something like that again, I'll maybe learn a little differently. I'll learn how to do a little bit different, and you know, negotiate things a little differently.
Well, look at the, well, I just keep thinking of little things where we have belief systems. Growing up in the 60s, 70s, 80s, we were told the evils of drugs, marijuana and LSD and all that. And then they made this war on drugs and everything. And so it was like any drug at all was horrible, was of no good, had no use except to make people crazy. Now you can see the belief system after it's taken 50 years, but we're slowly changing now, where they're saying that yes, sometimes drugs can cause negative things, but there's the flip side of it, where a lot of these drugs can be used for things that can benefit society and benefit emotional, like the ketamine treatments going on now. I know a few people have changed their lives. They're going through now that the FDA's approved it for therapy, and for some people, that's been a game changer, in their being able to handle their emotions. A few other people have been on it, and it's just been a mess. So it's just instead of lumping everything in and this is awful, we should only lump in and say this is the awful side of that drug, and we're going after that part, but not, you know, not not demonize the good that it can do also. So you see how we're slowly changing.
We
And
are, and that's
yeah,
that's the evolution of life, like the polar bear. The polar bear used to be a darker bear. Now it's been white for how many hundreds of years, right? And now it's starting to change back again, because that it's an evolution, but it's not a day and night. And it
yeah,
isn't something. Now let's go back to the belief of the drugs, right? And that's the thing, is that we got to understand that it's not necessarily we have to um to say, oh yay, it's okay now. It's like, for me, I have to kind of check in with myself. What do I like about this? What is good about this? Because everything in life has something that is not good about it and something that is really good about it, right?
yeah,
Everything has something that is up and down. There's, in and out. And not everything, like if we're talking about a belief system of religion, there is not one belief system that I personally have that I step in both feet into the whole thing. I take
yeah,
pieces out of it that fit me to hone into my belief system, so that I can be more well-rounded in my understanding of my spiritual walk. Because if I
yeah,
stepped into, let's say, all Catholic or being Catholic, I mean, I tried that as a kid, and I was like, oh, there's a lot of this that doesn't work. But also, too, I really learned about, the story of Mother Mary and Jesus. And
yeah,
then, with that basis of what I knew about Mother Mary and Jesus, I added on to it to be more well-rounded with their relationship. And then, through my time, let's say as I grew into more of a young adult, I became more conversational with them and got things firsthand,
yeah,
which is more easier to get a truth from something when it's firsthand. But also, too, there's some people who don't believe in mediumship and intuitive work. And if they knew how many voices I had going off in my head, they would think I needed to be in an insane asylum.
yeah, yeah,
Because I'm having conversations constantly in my head with different parts of me, different guides and that kind of stuff. Even as I'm talking now, I have this, ADHD brain that can multitask, with different things. And how do you do that? But it's that I figure that the more I put in my bag of knowledge of beliefs, the more well-rounded person I am.
Yeah, some people, because they were persecuted in past lives for
Mhm.
believing in the kind of stuff we're talking about now, or like I believe even Natasha, you were like murdered or burned at the stake or something for doing
Yes.
this kind of thing in another life, right? So sometimes that's holding on, and that's kind of, because sometimes things from past lives were like, if you were had a bad incident with something in a past life, and it's still part of in your shadow, a little bit part of your consciousness, and you can have fear. But people, we're in a world right now that it's never been easier to do these kind of things, to explore, to go outside the box and search without having to fear, except maybe a few silly looks, or they're not going to lock you up and they're not going to kill you, so, explore away. I tell people,
Exactly.
this
People
is
don't
this is a
know.
time.
Yeah, people really don't need to know what's going on in your own brain, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to tell others what you believe in. Now you can use discernment, and that's a big word that's coming up right now.
Yeah.
Discernment. And there's a lot of people who do not know what discernment means. And to take it very lightly, and what discernment means is, what do you want to speak of? How do you speak it? How much do you speak it to others? And then discernment with yourself. What do I speak to myself? What do I believe about myself? What do I need to discern out, filter out, so that I don't carry that anymore? So looking at that, and like I explained it to someone recently, it's like sometimes in my discernment, I don't feel like I can blurt to everybody, "Hey, I'm a medium, I'm intuitive," right? I can't do that, because I would be pushing my belief system on somebody else. So
Yeah.
sometimes when I'm in a grocery store and I get that, that person's not into it, right? I'll walk by and I'll say, and there I have a family member who wants to tell him something. So what I'll do is I'll walk up to him and I say, "You know what? I just want to say hello to you, and thank you for smiling today, because you're an amazing person."
Hmm.
And then I'll thank you for letting me say that, and I'll walk away. Did I say, "Hey, your grandmother wants you to know da 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 da," No, I just say something that is more neutral. That is discernment. It's discerning so that we can be who we are. But, a lot of people, even my husband, after being married 32 years, doesn't know everything that I believe in,
Yeah.
because I can't speak it all the time, because it's just a part of me, you know?
Well, discernment has just become more difficult than ever now with all of this artificial intelligence coming out. Things are going to be a big, giant mess for a while, because people that aren't very discerning will believe anything that comes along. I mean, like with artificial intelligence, how it made a video of like Trump talking to somebody, something that never happened, but it took things from the internet of that, put it together and made this video and everything. So it looks like it's really happened, but they know that it didn't happen. So I don't know. I'm even as open as I am about things. I go, man, Regan, I'm going to have to be, it's almost like you almost can't believe anything. You have to like experience something for yourself firsthand uh, to believe something anymore nowadays, rather than what somebody tells you happens. I don't know.
Exactly. And that's what we have to do with family members who taught us a certain way of doing things. You know, we have to kind of figure out what fits right. And like I was saying about the alien story, we have to discern, is this truth? Maybe. And if it's not that one, I know that it's happened somewhere else on this planet that nobody's talking about, right?
Yeah.
You know, and so if it didn't happen then, it's happened before. But then discerning, okay, I'm going to look at the story. Oh, yeah, that could be really a lot of truth, right? But then I'm going to look at the other thing that's going on. Ooh, what else is that story being distractive of? Because there again is discernment with government, with news, with a lot of things, and we can't believe. Oh, we never really have been able to. When I've been looking at past lives in government, like if you look at the way that England went into Ireland and tried to take over Ireland because they thought that they were savages. Look at our government and how they took over the indigenous people, because they thought they were savages, right? It's all
Yeah.
perspective, and I'm not going to say that things are right or wrong. Now, I would believe that us taking over another nation or another type of people, that is wrong. Taking our belief system and putting it over somebody else, that's wrong. The thing is, though, we have to learn, though, what is there something that someone in that situation could take a little salt and pepper of that belief system and say, you know what, I kind of like a little bit of that, but I'm going to keep a lot of this mine, and I'm just going to quietly in my head negotiate that, because we don't have to always blurt what we understand, what we believe, who we are. Now, there's a lot of people who are transgender, and there's a lot of people who are going through a lot of new belief systems for themselves. And I'm sorry, I'm not doing all the labels because it's my dyslexia
I
that
know
I
I'm
get
losing
mixed up
track.
in it. But so I want to honor who I'm talking about here. But there again is sometimes you have to blurt who you are, because that is part of changing our new knowings, waking us up.
Yeah.
But I would be careful of judgment. What is your intention, and how are you going to how are you doing this so that you can do this in a kinder way to establish a newer enlightenment, because
Yeah.
it is about intention and it is about in judgment.
Hey, let me ask you something, Natasha. I don't know if you have a take on this. I forget if I mentioned it in another show, but I know I've spoken to a few people. It's about the transgender issues we're going now. There's this huge change in the paradigm of sexuality going on. And of course, the one side, the real religious side, are saying that we're all going to hell. I mean, that this is something, all this happening is a sign of degradation of society and everything like that.
Nope.
But the research, okay, and the research that I've done, because when I have people do these life between life sessions and they go to the afterlife and back, um, and they find other lives. They've been male in lives, they've been female in lives, they've been gay, they've been straight. But when they get back to just the pure energy, they're just pure energy of love, you know. So what I'm wondering, this is just my hypothesis, I haven't had anybody say this, is that because we're supposed to be entering this new state of elevated spirituality, like the fifth dimension in a sense, this new thing, that all these souls that are being born now, as they come in here, they're just seeing people as soul, not as male or female. In other words, they're loving a person for who they are as soul, not particularly whether they're male or female. And if that continues the way it is, then in 50, 100 years from now, we won't be discussing this. It'll just be people are just what they are.
Yes.
They're deciding to love who they love, not because of any kind of physical attributes. So I don't know, maybe that, does that make sense at all? Or can
Yes.
one of
Okay.
your
So let
angels
me
there
let me give you a perspective that I have an understanding of.
okay.
That some souls come in and they are experiencing a new enlightenment, where like from some families, they come in, like, let's say masculine, and they were really a masculine young being, right? But as they grew, they came into being more feminine, right? So then they decided to
Mm-hmm.
change more into feminine. That was the evolution of their soul. Okay. Or, I mean, there's no straight line with any of this. There's also souls that had such a life in their being masculine or feminine, and their soul tends to be more masculine than feminine, or more feminine than masculine. So in other words, they have more lifetimes as a male, or
Mm-hmm.
more
Mm-hmm.
lives as a female. That their soul is more comfortable that way, and then they get that comfort coming in, and they want to be that soul, right? Some souls also don't really transfer from body to body very well. Let's say like a child who was feminine in the previous life, they had a quick life and they wanted to continue that life. coming into this one. They didn't their soul was so awakened that they came into this life, and it's confusing being in another sex body. Okay, so then they come in with that understanding. Then there's also this understanding that we sometimes there's beings who have so much trauma being in the male body or the female body that they change over, and they don't even want to be that body anymore. It's that body dysphoria type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That sometimes is why some people choose to go gay, or that kind of thing, right? Because they've had so much trauma with one sex that they don't even want to deal with that sex. I'm honoring everybody who's going through this. So, and then there's some beings that were in a lifetime where there was there was no male or female. And there was a time on this planet and other planets where there was bodies that were both male or female, and then there was bodies that were neither or both.
Mm-hmm.
So then we needed those other beings to be able to have children, right? At least in this body form that we were at in this lifetime. Sometimes you have babies that are in tubes and that kind of stuff. So there's other ways of having kids, but on this where we're at for some of these souls, and so that's why some don't care about male or female. It's just being the loving being, because that's where they came from, was that part. That's why I understand that there are some kids that are very much on the spectrum and they don't speak because they were in a lifetime of not speaking, and then all of a sudden, oh my God, coming onto this planet in this day, oh my God, no wonder they don't want to speak, because it's so overwhelming for them. So their vibration is so weird, and then their body comes in with a little bit of chemical disunderstanding, and then there's this thing. So it is so Paula, thank you very much for saying this. So she said gender fluid, yes. And then she also said, I think gender fluid approach with the younger generation actually takes judgment out of the equation, except for one being's rising with hate. Yes.
Yeah, we should. I think to me, we should be we should be nurturing young people just to allow them, like, to know that just what you said is happening, and they're just in other words, and to try to not persecute them, but to assist them, and in any way we can to help them find their true identity, or what's healthy for them or what works for them, and not persecute them just because they find themselves going against the grain, of what it is. So yeah, it's interesting, Natasha. We're in a beautiful, you'll be here long after me probably, but just to be in this space now where so many things are changing, about the aliens, about sexual identity, about just the way the world's running, right now. There's so much going on right now. I mean, it's like a beehive of activity going on almost in every direction. You can feel this change, this, and they say that this is normal before a big shift in consciousness.
Yes.
Right. In other words, because we have to kick out what doesn't fit anymore and prepare ourselves for what's coming, what the new paradigm is going to be.
Exactly. And that's the thing is that, like, my child is transgender, was born male, and then now is more female. And she goes by her. So that's why I know she's more feminine.
Yeah.
And the thing that I always honored her with is I always asked her, I said, before you walk through any door, hormones, surgery, name change with the government, that you make sure that that's what you want to do.
Don't do it.
Don't walk through the
Do it
door
quick.
until you have that deep core understanding. Practice it. Be with it. Do your name change with your friends, with reality, with the world around you, and be with it. But until you can legally go through that door, or emotionally go through that door to make sure that that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
honor it, and be with it. It's not a right or wrong answer. But the thing is, though, and when we have these younger children who know what they want to be, I can understand that. The thing is, though, we gotta practice it along the way. Let them wear, girl clothes if they're males born. Let them play with it. Let them see, because sometimes it's part of that soul's evolution to play this out, play that out,
Yeah.
play this other thing out. And it's okay if you let them play it out to see if that fits right. But before we do the surgeries and that kind of stuff, we have to make sure that this is a core thing. And the younger the child, because there's some of these laws that a child can have a sex change without informing the parents. There's some states that make this right, and I can't tell you if that's right or wrong. I'm not going to be there, but I'm just asking that let things stretch and pull before we walk through that door.
I
Because
think that, yeah, if we were making laws for the protection of in other words, not to persecute, but for the protection of people, then we should start coming up with some common sense things like, just because, well, one of my clients I had was in my regular therapy practice, was this really nice woman. And she, for so many years, would call herself lesbian. Okay. Well, then hearing her story when we did therapy with her was, when she was young in high school, she was way overweight, not really attractive looking. She couldn't get a date for the prom and everything. But there were these girls that were lesbian that she became best friends with and everything. And so she's got all these hormones and things going on. And she just figures in her mind, well, I guess I'm not attracted to guys. Here's these girls that like me. I must be a lesbian. So until she was in her 40s, she just kind of thought that. And then she, over whatever, she became a nurse, um, and lost a lot of weight and was so attractive. And all these guys were kind of coming on to her. And all of a sudden she had these feelings for guys. So then.
But that's not a wrong journey. That's not a
No,
right journey. It's her
just,
personal journey.
yeah, so, and then I've had clients, I had another client, a young man who was gay, but then in doing therapy with him, we found out that he was gay because of his early on, he'd been uh, he'd had sexual abuse by several men, and
Hmm.
so when you're young and you have that happen, it skews you who you really are, and so it took him until he was like in his 30s or 40s to realize that he had only become gay because of things that happened to him, but actually he was really straight when he came right down to it. So there's all kinds of reasons that people are their sexuality. So we just
That,
can't.
like
We
I
just
was
have
saying,
to.
that there's many different reasons. Trauma. There's
Yeah.
there's a lot of different things, and it's all a journey. And Paula, thank you for mentioning some of this stuff. Thank you for your comments. Um, at my work, we just had a bathroom with no labels. I'm surprised at people's reaction to something so basic.
I
I
know.
know, because we're so brainwashed. And then she also said in Florida started passing laws that definitely compromise freedom of the
Yeah.
LGBTQ community. It's so sad that we're going backwards, and that is the evolution. One step forward, two steps back. But that's the
Yeah.
thing that us who have an understanding and care about the human being inside this carcass that we call the physical body,
Yeah.
that we handle this with care. And that's the thing is like, I forget what I was doing, that it wasn't, I had to be who I was. It doesn't matter if people believe what I believe. It's
Yeah.
like, there's a video that I've been, or somebody on YouTube that I was watching. We're coming down to our time,
Yeah.
and it was they were talking about how now us whites are being bullied and negotiated against, that I can't hang out with my white friend, they're too white. It's like this language, and I'm like going, please don't judge me for who I am. Please don't. And I'm asking that for anybody in this world, that is
Yeah.
anybody in this world. Please don't judge them for who they are, even if they are very judgmental people themselves. That's why I ask for healing on this. I ask for understanding. I ask for wisdom to come out for the greater good. I respect other people's journey, but I'm going to put up a boundary and say, if you have those judgments, please keep them to yourself, because I know that that's not, you're telling me who somebody I'm not. You're telling
Yeah.
me that I'm somebody I'm not. And I need to say, stop.
I do feel good about this sexual issues that we're having now. The fact is, I can tell we are stepping forward. It's like
Hmm.
we've gone 2 steps forward, and that one step backward is the pushback that you get. But then, as long as we keep moving forward, then pretty soon that pushback. It's just like
Hmm.
with segregation. When Lincoln freed the slaves, and all of a sudden everybody goes, "Well, they're free now. There's no problems." And then they started the Jim Crow laws, which it's set it back, and it was like, "Yeah, you're free, but you're not,"
Yeah,
for a long time.
exactly.
And then now we've come so much out of that, but there's still some of that hanging on. Maybe we're 80% through it, but there's that 20% still that's still just as prejudiced as back in the slave days.
Yeah, and
Um,
prejudice is going to be part of our world until we get it cleaned up. But you have to understand that we are prejudiced in order to clean it up. That's the
yeah,
things, is that things you have to call things out in order to find out that you have them, so that you can work on it. Because if it's
yeah,
just something that you don't realize, like old truths, sometimes you don't understand you have an old truth until you look at a picture of your family member and go, oh my gosh, I just believe that whole thing. And it's like, okay, now that I know about it, I can work on it and say, so Paula, you were saying here, heck, I'm guessing you had trouble with people believing many things you believe, or converse
oh
about
yeah,
it. LOL. I have. And yet, like, I was talking with somebody and he was saying that, Natasha, you have a way of putting things that kind of makes sense. It's like the whole picture, that it's like you can picture, like me talking about the matrix system. You can get focused on the matrix system, but really it all comes down about being here today, being who you are, being alive, being the better self you are. And that's a longer story, that's a shorter story, but it is that dance of who we are. Maybe that's what I should talk about on Wednesday's show, about
about what?
the matrix system, and
Mm,
how to apply it to how, all these understandings, the space systems and all this, that how do we apply it to living in this planet today?
yeah. Well, this subject, there's so many facets to this, and it's been fun talking about it today. So we can maybe even next week we can start to do the first half, talk about more, because there's so much more to talk about. But yeah, I am glad that we are changing. And um, just a little thing about discernment here, which was interesting. I had a session a couple of days ago with a client. Ended up being 7 hours altogether. We were together. About
Wow.
about three was just going over. Because I have my clients prepare a list of questions. She had so many people she wanted to talk to on the other side. People that are alive in her life now. She wanted to talk to their higher selves, as well as people that passed on. She had a very complicated life, so it took a long time as a tour guide, in a sense, for me
Yes.
to get all of her information, so I know what she wanted to accomplish. But then she spent about 3 to 3.5 hours on the other side. But what she found out that her mission in life was to just help people to move to their next step in spiritual unfoldment by
Mm-hmm.
all these things that she knows. But then they told her that the main thing she needs to work on is discernment of knowing when to share and when not to share, because some people aren't ready for
Yes.
this, and you're going to get yourself in a lot of trouble. So that meant a lot to her. So she said, yeah, because she has this feeling, or she just wants to tell everybody, you know, and knowing that you just have to feel for when the right time is, and then ask yourself, is this right for this person, before she just blabs it to everybody, and dilutes
There
her
again,
power.
discernment. If we can practice
Discernment, yeah.
discernment, kindness, love, if we can't understand it, I'm asking for divine healing on this and negotiate our world.
Yeah, she found out also too, which was interesting for her. She had 3 guides on the other side that were her. She has 3 people, 3 entities as guides, not just one, you know. And for a while, the one guide showed up. It's so funny. The first one that showed up, we were trying to get his name, and he goes, well, "I'm not going to tell you," you know. And I said, "Well, should we
They do
just
that.
call you Guide Guy or something?" And he was okay with that. Well, um, he was getting her to laugh, so his humor and really pulling her leg a lot. But he guided us along, and then later on, another guide introduced himself, and then finally a third guide, and she's before this council asking questions and getting answers to her life, and the other guides were there, and she goes, "Wow, I thought I only had one guide. Now I realize I have 3." So just before we left the other side, I said, well, is your guide who we don't know his name still there? He goes, "Yeah, he's still here." So I said, "Hey, are we always, is she just going to call you the guide with no name or something like that?" And then he said, "Oh, just call me Josh," and then we realized that he was joshing her, so, and see, we got the inside joke, he's just saying, it's not important. It's just know that I'm here and everything too. So it
Yeah,
was,
exactly.
they have so much on, I would say there's so much love and there's so much humor on the other side, and that's all in these. We've not found any darkness, any evil beings, any devils, any hells in the afterlife. It's just
It's
love
all up
and
here. Our
love and
darknesses are
light.
all up
Yeah.
here, up in our
And
minds.
for people that think it's, oh, we're being tricked or something like that, I mean, you have to when you experience it, there's something deep inside you that just knows it's truth. It's different than like just seeing a movie and you're watching it just detached. When people go to the other side, you are there, and you experience it for yourself. And that's what I tell people. I said, well, look, you keep saying all this and that. I said, well, have a session and prove it to yourself, you know that all this is real. It's all they have to do, because it's easy. 90% of people can do it, so, but anyway, that's all we can do is just talk.
Exactly. So we're over our time,
Our
and I
time. Okay.
appreciate. Yep. It's been a gift here, Regan, you coming in, and thank you for being here. Um,
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that we can have a lot of our perspectives. Even if they're different, they can come together and negotiate it. And Paula,
Yeah.
thank you, Paula, for commenting. You have
Yeah,
been a
Paula.
blessing here. I share everything I can. Worst case scenario, they talk about like crazy. Best part, they talk about it later. Besides, people will always talk about you. I will try at least provide information of
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for being part of the show today, Paula. And that always helps, because you know people seeing you with your perspectives and things is just as important as what we're talking about. So
yeah, just
thanks.
remember discernment though, because sometimes
Yeah.
it is about giving, like I said earlier, about giving the message. Sometimes I have a family member that has like a paragraph that wants me to tell them, but they're not willing to hear it. So sometimes I have to walk them and go, thank you for being you. You're doing a good job.
Hey, I have a question now too, Natasha. Have you heard of these earthing pads?
Oh,
Earthing,
yes.
where you ground
Well,
yourself.
you told me about it, but
I did
there's
that
been a
last week,
lot of
right?
that kind of stuff going around.
Yeah, and just using my discernment. I mean, it seems like with this earthing thing that there's a lot of scientific proof. It's not just
Mhm.
like a gadget or something. I mean, you can test yourself with a voltmeter and test how many volts of energy going through your body when you're just walking around. And
Mhm.
then when you touch an earthing pad and you touch it, you can see that it goes down about 90%. So
Oh,
you really
yeah.
lower the volts in your body. I'm just thinking, I'm not a scientist, but I picture it like a pilot light or a flame, and machinery um, wears out. Like the hotter machinery gets, the least. I mean, the it wears out faster. If everything gets hot in there, the motors and things burn
Yeah,
out a
and
lot
a lot of
quicker.
us run at a high vibration, and
Yeah,
we burn
you need to be
ourselves out.
grounded. Yeah. So if anybody else out there sees this and whatever, and has some experience with earthing pads or grounding yourself, let us know sometime too. Because I just sent Candace one, my daughter, because she's had these headaches and they can't find a source for it. And even in hypnosis and that, I was able to give her temporary relief, but then it came back. So, nobody knows what's going on. And she's got, but she, like we were talking about last week, she's being hit hard from all directions with all kinds of things in her life. And I don't know how she stays so sweet and lovable. I'd be screaming if I was her with all the things she's got to deal with. So I know some of it has to do with that. She's at her, so I was hoping that maybe the earthing pad would do her some good. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm. I know
So anyway,
it's an interesting thing to work with, because if we don't ground ourselves, we can really burn ourselves out.
yeah, so I have just the pad, so I lay across it and have piece of my hands most of the night. I'm on my side, so most of the night my hands are touching the pad. So we'll see what happens in a few months if I notice any changes.
Well,
So
cool.
anyway,
You'll have to keep us informed.
yeah, people can get me hold of me at visittheafterlife.com. I have the spiritual practice and a regular hypnotherapy practice that works with fears and phobias, post-traumatic stress, anything to do with negative energy that way, and that's very successful in the modalities I use. But what I'd love to do the most is do these life between life sessions through the Newton Institute, where you go in a deep state of trance and you visit the other side for 2 or 3 hours, get all your questions answered about your life, visit loved ones, come back and get working on what your mission is. So you can get a hold of me at Visit the Afterlife. Some great videos there that tell you more about it, and my phone number, emails there. And Natasha now, with angelicclarifications.com. I know with yours I always spell it real slowly because I'm afraid I'm going to misspell it, but it's really simple. I just think angelic, and then when I capitalize the C, clarification, I just sound it out,
Yep,
and there
exactly.
I am.
I always say when I tell people my email, Paula, I'll get to you in just a minute. She has a question, and I'll get to you in just a minute. But yeah, I always sound it out. There's 2 C's in the middle and an S at the end, so it's
Clarifications, yeah.
clarifications.com.
And it's good that you have it right there because people can write it down,
Yeah,
if they want to have a
exactly.
session and everything.
Exactly. I do. I do have time for sessions. I'm going to be opening up my schedule to do summer work here, so I'll have more time. I did a show last night on Feng Shui, so I'll have more time to do the Feng Shui clearings and
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. So I'm
really
excited.
Enjoy the Feng Shui too, don't you?
I do.
Don't you? I can tell you have a
I really do.
That.
Yeah, it's one of my things. I really do enjoy bringing house blessings, clearings, and understandings in for people to negotiate life, and so that's part of on my website too. I also have a lot of sessions. I have a session actually I love to do also is where you bring past lives of our DNA and past lives and come bring them together and heal that process. It's a little bit longer session. It's not hypnosis, but it's kind of in that same scenario. And you go in and you go through the birth system and you go back in through the bodies and you go back to why things may be happening. I did that with myself with my family history of colon cancer. And I healed that person's life that I asked that person to heal during that so that I can be healthy. Because it's not about us healing our family. It's about making sure that we can walk forward in our life. So
I'm so glad you talk about that. And it just hit me right now because I keep expanding my sessions, doing new things because we're doing all this healing. But I need to, when clients are over there, I need to ask some questions over there from the health people over there about these connections like what you're doing, and then ask them about my clients and see if they can do something about the difference between the DNA and what issues they have that are making them physically ill from previous lifetimes or something.
And I actually, when I'm doing that session, I do it from both perspectives at that time.
That's
at that
really great.
Time. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I love doing that. So you can reach me at angelicclarifications.com.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I also, I think on Wednesday, I'm going to talk about the matrix system and how to enlighten ourselves from what's coming in from informations of the star beings. And yet, why are we truly on this planet for? So that's probably going to be my Wednesday show. Paula, you're wanting to take your house back. Thank you very much for doing that. I talked about that on the show last night. It was about ownership is how you do your when you want to own your home and not have beings souls take over, you have to take ownership. So what I'm saying is there any kick out the energies? Is there any getting ready to take my house back? Any particular flavor of incense you suggest? You know what I'm getting is this is kind of, it's not an incense. What I got was you can get like baking soda in boxes, and you put it in a thing, and you put cinnamon in with it, and you sprinkle that on your carpet, and as you're sprinkling it on your carpet, you're taking back the energy. So when you vacuum it up, you're vacuuming it up. Also, what I'm also getting is you can do like dragon sage. You can do one of the sages you can do, but it's not just the white sage, but there's an off brand of sage, so you can do those two things. But sprinkling baking soda with cinnamon in it on your carpet is very grounding. And if you talk and you do that through your floor, especially if you have carpets. If you don't have carpets, you may want to do it on your sometimes we have carpets on different places. So do this, like you can do this under like on your mattresses. Lift up your mattress and sprinkle it underneath your mattress. You can
in other words, you want just sprinkle the like powder, but you don't want it all wet.
No. It's dry. It's a dry compound.
Okay.
Like I have carpets through my house. And so what I do is I in a bucket, I make sure the baking powder is broken up so it's not in chunks. And then I sprinkle cinnamon in it. And then I dust it out. And then and so with that kind of help. So that's what I'm getting is that you do that, let it sit in your carpet for a while. When you're walking, take ownership of your house, and then do the incense maybe later in the day, so that you are or doing when you do the house clearing, where you light the sage, that you can do that. So it's a fine line, but what I would do is really for the next 24 hours after you sprinkle that baking soda in, that you just start walking through it saying, this is my home. Everybody who's no longer needed gets out now. I'm only asking for love, angels, and blessings to be with my house. And so you keep saying that over and over and over again, and you take it. And if something feels like it needs to be moved, then you pick up that box that needs to be moved. And if you need to move it to where you're going to go through it, move it to where you're going through it. So it's that fine line that's working. I hope that makes sense, Paula, because this is a quick version of a moment.
That was nice of you to do that for her.
Yeah, so thank you, Paula. What did you say here? I have to vacuum. And so I'll try that, she says. So you're more than welcome, Paula.
Let
Thank
us know.
you, everyone. Yes. Thank you for being here, everybody. And my love is with you. And know that you're going to be perfectly imperfect while you find your new belief systems.
Yeah. And we'll
Blessings, everyone.
See you next week.
Yeah, happy Father's Day, everybody.
Oh, yeah. That's
Bye
right.
now.
It's coming up next week.
It is.